Check. It's loud in here. Can they hear me out there?
We're good now. Leslie says she can hear you now, so I think I fixed it. So you may just have to restart. Sorry.
Everything. All right. Here we go. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Genoa Township Board of Trustees. It is February 9th, 2022. Actually, I correct myself, it's a special meeting. It is a rescheduled special meeting of the regular trustee meeting on February 3rd that was canceled due to weather. The time is 6:32. A full and accurate account of this meeting's audio recording can be found at www.genoatwp.com. Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Here.
Ms. Goodman?
Here.
Vaughn?
Here. Also present, we have Fiscal Officer Pat Meyer, Deputy Chief of Police Chabali, Lieutenant McMillan, I'll get your name right this time. Let's see, Fire Chief Ponzi, Director of Roads and Buildings and Grounds. My mic is off. Where'd he go? Can't hear myself at this time. Mic is... I can't hear myself. Better? Okay, Bob Matthews, Director of Zoning and Development, Joe Schaefer, Township Administrator Paul Wise. Did I miss anyone? All right. At this time, I'd like to ask Molly McHale to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Molly. All right, I'll turn it over to Pat Meyer, Fiscal Officer,
right,
for the
thank
Fiscal
you.
Officer report.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. A few things. First, I'd ask approval of the meeting minutes as presented to you for November 18th, 2021 special trustee meeting, the December 2nd, 2021 regular trustee meeting, and the January 6th, 2022 reorganizational trustee meeting.
Very good. I'll move to approve the following November 18th, 2021 special trustee meeting, December 2nd, 2021 regular trustee meeting, January 6th, 2022 reorganizational trustee meeting. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Antonez?
Only because I wasn't in office on November 18th or December 2nd, I will abstain.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, I'll have for your review, I'll leave them for review and signature after the meeting, the financials, year-end financials. As of December 31st, adjusted balance of $24,338,467.77. The pooled investment account of $21,347,275.89, and the primary account, $2,993,377.21, and everything is balanced and reconciled for your review. And next, I would ask for you to approve the 2022 permanent appropriations that would be effective on January 1st, back to January 1st.
Retroactive.
Yeah, to January 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we hadn't closed the books yet, so now we can
Right.
spend money.
Okay. I'll move to approve the 2022 Genoa Township permanent appropriations in the amount of $22,649,713.11, retroactively effective on January 1st, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Antoinette?
Abstain.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries.
Next, I'd like to ask a motion to approve the annual purchase orders and blanket certificates for vendors for 2022 that were presented, so that we can have those approved and other stuff.
Okay, I'll move to approve the 2022 annual purchase orders and blanket certificates in the amount of $7,311,895.37, retroactive to January 1st, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
Last thing, I need approval for then and now purchase order to the Delaware County Diesel for repairs.
Okay,
For the ladder truck, I'm sorry.
you're okay. I'll move to approve a then and now purchase order to Delaware County Diesel Repair in the amount of $10,424.08 for the ladder truck repairs. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
That's all I have, except for I need all three of you after the meeting for some stuff.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're running off on me. I'm good, thank you.
Very good. Next, we have trustee comments. Anyone?
I'll go. I would just like to express our township's thanks to the snow plowing crews from this week. I know it was a lot of work. We talk about having 90 miles of roads, and since you have to go down each direction, that's 180, and when you widen them out, that's 360. It takes a little bit of time to get everywhere, but the job was well done in a timely manner considering the amount of snow that we had. So if you would express our thanks to the crews, we would appreciate it.
I will pass it on to him.
See, Antoinette's anything?
I guess I would thank Chief Ponzi for educating me at my first fire advisory committee meeting. We reviewed a lot of material and I learned a lot. Appreciate it.
Very good. Yep. I want to echo trustee Goodman's comments about the road crew. Well done. And we should have the state of the township address. Yes.
See that?
At the beginning of 2021, all Genoa Township meetings were held virtually. However, meetings were held in person. New audio-visual equipment was added to the Township Hall. Since reopening, trustee and zoning meetings can still be viewed live online. Using Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security or CARES Act money, Genoa Township renovated Township Hall. The walls were painted and carpet, lights, electrical plugs, and doors were replaced. The security system at the fire station was upgraded and security systems were added to the maintenance building in Township Hall. Lastly, the Township Hall entrance was improved to provide safety and security for staff. Last year, Genoa Township Zoning Department issued 329 residential zoning permits, including 42 single-family homes, 74 accessory structures, 83 fences, 27 decks or patios, and 41 pools. There were also 17 non-residential or subdivision permits, including 1 new building and 7 change of use permits. The Zoning Commission heard 5 cases, including the initiation of a potential overlay district for the Hoover Reservoir watershed. The Genoa Christian Academy final development plan was approved, as well as Grizzly Bird Brewing. On Maxtown Road, the J.C. Manning rezoning was approved along with the Grove final development plan at the corner of Big Walnut and Worthington Roads. New Zoning Commission rules of procedure have been drafted and are currently being considered. The Board of Zoning Appeals administered, heard, and decided 16 cases. The Zoning Department is preparing and testing a new document management system and a new online application system for residential improvement permits. Both systems will debut in 2022. 2021 marked the first year Genoa Township received funds from the new Parks Levy. With this new funding, 4 new pickleball courts were added to Center Green Park, 25 trees were planted, and the basketball court and parking lot were resurfaced and painted. Go Geese Go was hired to mitigate the geese populations at both Hillmar and Center Green parks. The township secured over $100,000 in grant funding for improvements at Freeman Park. With these funds, a ninja course will be installed in 2022. With the help of Westerville Public Library, Wi-Fi was added to the shelter. A Genoa Township Gateway feature was started just south of Mount Royal Avenue and will also be completed in 2022. In 2021, all plots were rented at the Worthington Road Gardens. 7 new large plots and 24 raised beds were added, and the birdhouses were replaced. Additionally, the Parks Advisory Committee planted 300 tree saplings in the no-mow areas. The roof on the shelter at Mcnamara Park was replaced, and the roof on the Red Barn was repaired. Community events included 2 summer movie nights and fishing day. Genoa Township's Maintenance Department resurfaced 24 roads for a total of 9.87 miles. They also replaced 2,800 feet of storm sewer, repaired 63 storm inlets, updated 51 ADA ramps to code, and replaced 637 feet of curb and gutters. The Maintenance Department salted the roads 16 times and spread 17 tons of salt. The crew plowed the roads 7 times. Students from Alcott Elementary painted 4 of the township's plows. 1,300 blue recycling carts were purchased at a subsidized rate thanks to the help from an Ohio EPA grant. The carts were delivered to residents who purchased them at a discounted rate. After moving into their new building in 2020, the Genoa Township Police Department completed the finishing touches on their new station. Landscaping was installed, grass was planted, and rooms were furnished. 4 new officers were hired and 2 new sergeants were promoted. The police department transitioned to the new property room with 100% accuracy. Records were switched to a new management system through the county. Training increased 60% from 2020, and body cameras were fully implemented. The department received $1,500 in grant money from the Attorney General's office for the completion of school threat assessment. Finally, a therapy dog was purchased with donated funds from middle school students. The Genoa Township Fire Department ordered a new medic using medical reimbursement funds. A new thermal imaging camera was purchased with a grant from Shriners and the trade-in value of an old camera. New dispatching technology and station alerting equipment were updated. This upgrade will aid in faster notification during emergency calls. Also, funds received from the Affordable Care Act were used to purchase new cancer preventative protective turnout gear for all personnel. Genoa Township continues to apply for grants to offset costs. The township has a history of cutting costs when we can without compromising quality or reducing services. We are upgrading technology, making it easier for residents to access township resources, apply for zoning permits, and rent township facilities. I'd like to thank former trustee Gephardt for serving as trustee of Genoa Township for the last 12 years. I am proud to serve the residents of Genoa Township along with trustee Goodman, newly elected trustee Antonetz, and fiscal officer Pat Myers. We, along with our dedicated staff, work hard to keep Genoa Township a nice place to live.
Nice.
Thank you, Joe. Sure. I want to thank Leslie for helping me put that together. She makes all of us look good. Anything else for trustee comments? All right, we'll move on to public comment.
I also want to thank Bob.
Sir, could you give us your name?
I'm sorry, Carl Gebhardt. Wise guy.
Name and address.
Carl Gebhardt, 6796 Regency Drive, Westerville, Ohio, 43082. I also, Bob, want to thank you, Corey, and your staff. As a private citizen now, I think it's I mean, it's just amazing. When you drive around Genoa Township streets and you drive around City of Columbus, Orange Township, Harlem Township, it's a world of difference. And I know it takes a while to get to some of the residential streets, and that's the plan. And you publicize that plan. And you do it because those are heavily traveled. I also know that there's still neighborhoods where we have cars parked that make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get down the streets. And they're still in bad shape because you can't get the plows down there. So I would hope the residents understand that and will work with you to make sure that our streets are able to be plowed, first of all, and understand that you are out there and you're taking this seriously. So thank you very much. Please extend our appreciation. I know I talked to a couple of plow drivers that went through our neighborhood, but I appreciate what they do, always have, and you know that. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being here tonight on a winter night that you had to reschedule because it was even more of a winter night, and that's what happens. But I just want to make sure that since I'm not sure if the campaign promise of no time limit on public comment is in effect, I will try to stay as close to 3 minutes as possible. Trustee Vaughn asked me at the last meeting in December what I was going to do with my spare time. Well, let's find out. There's been a one-sided conversation in this township over the last couple years, as well as in social media. That's going to change. Let's start tonight with a review of the campaign finances of our new trustee, congratulations, Mark, Antonette's, and then tie that to the upcoming appointments for committee members, specifically the zoning commission. All this is public record. It's all out there. This isn't anything new or anything that I'm making up. And it's all legal and above board as far as we know. Mark, your campaign report as of October 20th showed contributions, a loan from you, $5,000. That's always good to see. You can't invest in yourself, who can? But we also have a contribution here from Jim Carter, good old Jim Carter, $1,200. $1,200. Kathy Nelson, $85. So let's jump to the report filed 12/09/21 from Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development, of which Jim Carter is the treasurer. On there, Jim contributed $500, in addition to Kathy Nelson at $5, Kathy Nelson at $200, $500, $200, and Mcnamara at $200, and Ken Davis at $250. They then turned around and spent $2,833.23 on flyers on 10/18. He also made an $800 in-kind for the famous topper signs regarding high-density development. Then we look at 12/10/21, in-kind contribution, $800. Dynalab, that's an interesting one. Paid for mailing and printing, $2,822.23. That's the same exact amount as the Genoa Township Residents for Responsible Development paid for flyers, $2,800.23. So 9 days after the GTRRD paid for flyers, so did Dynalab, same exact amount. So totals, we have Jim Carter, personal expense or contribution on 9/1 of $1,200, Jim Carter, treasurer, GTRRD of $500, so that's $1,700 in cash. Then we have GTRRD, flyers of $2,833.23, the toppers of $800, total $3,633.23. That brings a grand total of the contribution of GTRRD and Jim Carter of $1,700 to $5,333.23. I understand one of the applications for zoning is none other than Jim Carter, 4493 South Old 3C Highway. Carter is one of the organizers and treasurers of GTRRD, an organization that was the group that spearheaded the referendum and intervened in the Benelkauser court case, in which 4 federal judges at 2 federal levels found in favor of the township and Mr. Benelkauser. GTRRD and Jim Carter has generated most of the controversy and dissension in township over zoning and development. I hope Kathy Nelson doesn't feel slighted that I didn't recognize her. Through misleading residents and outright lies, the GTRRD trigger words, stop high-density development, are like world peace and stop, world hunger. Who could be against that? Even though they can't define what high-density development is on a consistent basis, they use it to fire up the folks. Something you didn't see in the GTRRD Facebook page, the Delaware County Board of Elections found Mr. Carter as treasurer of GTRRD being late filing campaign expenditure reports this past July. Again, public record. A violation of state election law. I believe he was referred to the Ohio Elections Commission. Some of a common theme of others associated with GTRRD. As I've already shown, Mr. Carter personally and in his role as treasurer contributed over $5,000 to the Antonets for Genoa. More than Mr. Antonets alone himself. Undoubtedly, the most ever contributed to any Genoa Township trustee. In addition, Trustee Vaughn, you've also been a recipient of contribution to campaign support from Mr. Carter and GTRRD. Why? Well, GTRRD and Carter are willing to do anything and at any cost to secure their people, giving them the majority on this board. Ironically, Mr. Carter applied for the Zoning Commission several years ago, and even his puppet master trustee, Frank D'Antonio, didn't support his appointment. For years, Mr. Carter and his tag-along accused me of being in development interest pocket, yet not one of them brought forth any evidence of me accepting a campaign donation or financially benefiting from any developer or wanting to build, or resident wanting to build in the township. So to GTRRD, Jim Carter, Kathy Nelson, Annette McMurray, Ken Davis, Trustee Goodman, Vaughn, and Antonets, the chickens have come home to roost, to use a rural feel analogy. Considering Mr. Carter's disregard for the law, propensity to creating chaos and dissension, misleading residents, the lack of open-mindedness and judgment on development, his excessive financial support for Trustee Antonets and even Trustee Vaughn, their people, who are about to appoint someone to the Zoning Commission. Mr. Carter's application for zoning and any other committee in the township should be stamped trash can. There was once a state senator from Cleveland who was fond of saying, I can't be bought, but I can be rented. Let's hope that is not the case in Genoa Township. I look forward to continued conversations and involvement as a taxpayer, private citizen with lots of time on my hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
I'd like to comment since I think most of that was directed to me. It's good to see you're no longer in politics, Carl. And if anybody wants to review my financials with me, I'm complete open book.
And, yeah, I mean, it's public record, so anybody's free to look at the BOE. And for the record, I think we had 8 applicants for the zoning commission, so there's plenty of people to choose from. Anybody else, public comment? Okay, moving on. Paul with administration.
Good evening. This evening, I have a few things on the agenda that I'd like to discuss. First off, I initially put out a memo to the board on the 21st of January with some, what I thought at the time to be some acceptable expenditures for the ARPA funds. Since that time, we held the Township Association meeting, and there was a lot of great information shared at that meeting where apparently there's guidance given now from both the Treasury Department and other, the Board of Budget Management, that now there's a whole listing of acceptable items that could be utilized with the funds that we have received this year and later on, last year and this year. So I'm going to pump the brakes on my memo at this time and reexamine what those acceptable purposes are that now can be considered, because we're not limited solely to what my memo was addressing. It could be for other purposes, worthwhile purposes, to be spread out among some other departments in the township. So I just want to let you know that I'm not requesting any activity on this, but I just want to examine the purposes more for the, in the next month or so, re-examine this, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a little bit of discussion on that. My goal is to reach out to every department and have them come up with their list. Yeah, go ahead.
Just for the audience, ARP is American Rescue Plan.
Yes, thank you.
We tend to do ARP and things like that. and
Yeah.
just wondering-
Thank you. I would like for each department to come up with an itemized list and maybe prioritize it and send it to the trustees so that we can make an educated decision on best use of this funds. But I also would like other input.
May I suggest that
Yes,
the
go ahead.
department heads pass that through Mr. Wise, because he
fine.
has the listing of what would be approved.
That's
And there's no
fine.
sense of us addressing
Yes.
something that's not authorized.
Okay, very good,
Of course, I would run it by the prosecutor's office. 'Cause
Absolutely.
very good.
they do want to vet things before we put ourselves in an unacceptable position.
Do you have a comment on that, Mark?
I got a question. On these kind of expenditures, do we have to do public bidding?
Well, it depends on the, what we're doing. Like,
$50,000 or more, we have to go to bid.
so, for example, on this memo, most of those items with playground equipment were off a state bid, so no bid were required. Same way with the restrooms, those come on a state bid. You buy the package and they plunk them down in place. So, yes, some projects, I assume, would be, probably need to be bid out, depending on who wants what amenity, so.
And do we have, or do you have a timeline? Do we have to spend this or we lose it, or do you know?
No, there's a 2-year timeline to spend this, so we have some elbow room. We can't really,
You have to appropriate it by December 31st of 2024, and you have to spend it by December 31st, 2026.
Yeah. Okay, good.
don't sweat it.
Time to, yeah.
And the good
Good.
news is, in the meantime, we're collecting interest.
Right, yeah. Any other discussion on that? Anybody? Okay, very good.
Thank you. And I do want to move on to my second agenda item. I know in the past year or so, we've been trying to work with Delaware County, the Waste District, on getting some projects into Genoa Township, getting a collection of some sort. So I have worked with the Waste District and Delaware County Friends, or Keep Delaware County Beautiful. And it was decided that a lot of phone calls from their organizations, our residents are calling them asking for disposal of latex paint. They do have a company that would like to have a recycling day in a township. April 2nd is a great day for them that we could work this out, work with Leslie on getting a blast, but it would be only township residents, no limit on the latex paint being brought in. And the way we would do this, structure this would be, it'd be a Saturday morning from 8 until noon. And we would run the residents down past the fire station into Mcnamara Park, hang a right, and go have the collection down at the end of the cul-de-sac there. I guess you could call it the roundabout or whatever, the cul-de-sac. So that way, if there's a backup of traffic, no one will be on Big Walnut stuck with blinkers on. So be far enough back that there's no issues. So I just want to let the board know that we were able to get a project worked with the county, with the Solid Waste District, and we will probably need some internal help with flagging that day, with just some directional people to get our residents back to where the collection is. So it's the first time ever for this type of thing in the township, so I'm excited.
Thank you for organizing it. And it's only latex paint, correct?
Only latex.
Okay.
Next up, Leslie has prepared you binders, et cetera, for committee appointments, and I have no report on this, but traditionally, I think the board has held a special meeting to discuss the appointees. So I'll probably let you guys coordinate your schedules on a date that we could post that meeting.
Yes, do we want to look at our calendars?
We generally have an executive session to do this, because it is an appointment and allowable in an executive session for us to make our decisions and then make appointments in the public meeting.
Anyone have a preference?
Is there a deadline for this, for us to complete this?
Well, typically, we try to make these appointments by April, right? Or do they start
April 1st
April?
starts their term.
So we need to do it
Okay.
at the March meeting.
And we need to, give sufficient time to folks to get them on their calendars, et cetera, so they can be planful. So ideally, sometime in February. We do have the 17th held as a special trustee meeting if needed, or there's other dates. And I guess the other question is daytime or nighttime, because this one wouldn't really matter.
That would probably depend on his work schedule. Would
Yeah,
you rather do evening?
I mean, yeah, I have a full-time job, so daytime would be a little more challenging. I anticipate this will take quite a while now.
Depends.
An hour or two, depending. It depends upon the discussion.
Yeah, I guess it depends if
So
Carl's there.
is the 17th okay then at 6:30?
Yeah,
Regular, okay,
Say February 17th?
I think
March.
so.
It's
February 17th?
February 17th, because we would like to make the appointments by the March meeting.
What time, 6:30?
Does that work, Mark?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
That's fine.
We have on occasion done interviews with the people interested in zoning and BZA. Do we feel that that will be necessary? Do we want to have our exec meeting narrow down the pool? What's the pleasure?
I don't know.
I've sat on 3 different committees. Don't think I've ever been interviewed. I was on zoning with Connie, but I will say I reviewed these, and there's very few people in here I know. But they look like they're very highly qualified and passionate, and I wouldn't mind meeting some of these that if we shortlist them.
Yeah.
So maybe we leave some time.
Yeah. Yeah, but don't we need to make those, did you want to do the interviews that night? Or do you want to do it a separate night?
We generally do a half hour for each interview.
Right.
And that would be 4 hours for the zoning. And I forget, wasn't it like 5 or
Yeah, there were quite a few for BZA, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember for how many for them. So it would be a very long evening to do
Yeah.
it all in one night. The other thing is if we're going to do interviews, we might want to think about doing those first, because there's always some shifting around. If someone is chosen for this committee, it means they're not available for another committee, and whoever isn't selected for zoning might be on something else, but you don't know that until you make those zoning appointments. So I think in the years I've done it, it's been zoning and BZA first, as far as when our meeting happens, and then we move on to the others.
Okay, so do we want to, the 17th, do interviews?
That would work for me.
Okay.
I have more flexibility.
Yeah, personally, I think a half hour was too long to interview.
I think we did about 20 minutes and
Yeah.
then a few minutes in between.
Yeah. Okay,
So. And then do you want to do a follow-up meeting then?
yeah,
I would prefer not to do this all in one night.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
I get a little
So
slap happy.
interviews on the 17th, and then the following week, we'll meet to make appointments?
When during the following week?
Well, Monday's President's Day, so probably not that day. So 22nd, 23rd, 24th, does anybody have a preference? I'm free the 22nd and 23rd.
Yeah, me also.
Yeah, I'd rather do the 23rd. I do have a meeting on the 22nd.
23rd is fine. At 6:30 again?
Unless Mark gets off earlier, I don't know what time you're available.
Yeah, I mean, we can push it to like 5:30, if that
5:30?
helps get
Doesn't
started
matter to
earlier.
me.
Both meetings.
I can do both.
Okay, we'll start at 5:30 at both meetings.
For each one?
Yeah,
Okay.
very good.
So let me understand this, all these names in here, are each of us going to pick a short list?
We will interview.
Or do you interview all of them?
Just
Just the new
BZA
ones?
and zoning
Oh, okay.
only.
And only the new ones, or you're not going to interview some that's already on?
We
We've done
typically,
all of them.
we typically interview them all, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interviews on February 17th, starting at 5:30, and then the 23rd, we will have an executive session to decide. All right, very good. Anything else? Oh, yes, Paul, you have.
Okay, thanks for that. Moving on, another collaboration event happening with the board's acceptance this year. We had some good discussions with with Westerville Public Library to create a story trail with the library. And what this is, there's a model of one of these down. There's an actual story trail at Johnson McVeigh Park in Westerville. And what it is, it's a series of signs, fixed place signs that are put around a loop trail or a semi-loop trail that we're discussing putting in at Hillmar Park at the Horseshoe Trail there. And what it is the parents would start with their children on one end of this thing, and you will read an entire book by the time you walk around each of the stations. So it's a very nice reading event for families, and get out and do some, stretch your legs and read a book, and it's an educational event also that we're trying to push in our parks. So the agreement would be to split the cost of the signs with the library, be about $2,600 a piece, which it shouldn't be an issue with our levy funds here for that small of an expenditure. And library is excited about the collaboration. I know that they had one, and they want to put one further south in their library district, but this will take care of an obligation on the north side of their area. So is the board okay with creating this story walk trail around Hillmar Park?
Yeah, I think it's great. Anybody else?
Idea. I'm not sure if we're talking about this money coming out of the Parks levy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the Parks Advisory Committee aware of this? Have they been approached?
I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. Leslie said, hey, have you talked to them yet? I thought it was in discussions at your committee, so I'm like, well, I better.
That's, I asked Paul if you knew, and I should have brought it up the other,
I just don't want them to be
Last week.
blindsided.
yeah.
Oh,
So-
okay. No, I thought we were
Okay.
talking about this back when we were discussing Freeman too with them, so. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Well, they're excited about working with the township, so
Very good.
we'll move ahead then.
Then
with
I'm
that.
fine with it too.
Yes, I
Okay.
have
Want
some
to get their
Paul.
blessing.
I did the same, and I thought that they knew.
Excellent. And the next thing up, we have a wait list that Leslie has created on our website, that people who, if we were gonna go through another grant, of course, we can't get another grant for the recycling bins for another couple years, because it's based upon who's awarded one, and then you have to take some years off to get it again. But we have 511
Wow.
residents that would like the cans. So the thought came up, if we gave them an at-cost amount to purchase it at, that maybe they would want one if we would expedite the purchasing for them, go on our website and buy the units full price, and then we would take delivery of them. Bob's guys would slap the wheels on, because they made it was no time at all with their drills and everything. They put those together and offer them to the residents at an at-cost situation. I thought I'd run that by the board if you're interested in doing it. I know it's not a $10 can anymore, but it would be in an area of like $56 or so once you add in the shipping. So,
Would it be a prepay situation, so?
yes, I wouldn't put the order in until we got everyone, because the shipping on these things is expensive, so we want everybody, all the cans coming at one time, all 500, so.
Okay, but
If a 500 will go for it.
the question is more, people would commit to it by prepaying.
Yes,
As opposed to saying, yeah, I want one, and, oh, I changed my mind.
yes, they would put in through our credit card system, the order, and then once we would set up a deadline. If you hit this mark and we'll expedite the purchase. And that way, that'd be a nice, that stamped Genoa Township on it. We wouldn't do the top EPA grant stamp because this isn't part of the grant, but it would definitely have the nice Genoa logo on there. So everybody, is the board okay with this?
Yeah, do they have a minimum order that, no?
No.
Is it just that shipping is going to be more expensive the fewer that you buy? Is that how it works?
It's probably, I look back when we bought the 15 or the 1,300 cans, it was $4,000 for those cans, so.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't know that people are going to want it for the 50 whatever dollars
Yeah.
versus the 10, but I think it's worth sending it out there and letting the residents choose.
It may be a decent price for that type of can anyways. If you go and
Yeah.
buy them from a hardware store or something, it may be an equal amount, plus you'd have that lovely Genoa logo on them.
Well, and as a testimonial, I love the recycling can. Much easier to get to the curb than lugging that red bin out and taking the wheelbarrow that kept tipping.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I have noticed a significant reduction in the amount of trash that is
Yep.
blowing around the neighborhood
It's a lot
on
neater.
Friday.
You're right, it's a lot neater out there.
So I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, then we'll move ahead. We'll
Okay.
get I've asked them for a worst-case scenario on the shipping for 511. So we'll get a price and then do a full price option for the residents.
Okay.
And last thing on the list, Linda wanted me to let you know that she was able to secure the Westerville Central football field for the egg hunt for April 9th, Saturday morning. So just letting the board know to add that into your agendas of things to
time?
do on April 9th.
What, do we have a time?
It's, games usually start at 10 and the hunt starts at 11 usually, so,
And it's over at 11:01.
exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have great weather and a lot of fun that day.
Very good.
That's all I have, board.
Okay, thank you. Next, police.
Good evening, trustees. Everyone's having a good evening, at least as good evening as Chief Gamble, who can't be present, and is sitting on a fine beach in Florida right now. He reminded me when I told him I had 11 inches of snow at my house, he said, "Big deal, I have sand in my shoes." So hopefully he's having a nice evening tonight. So up on the board here, I'm going to do just a brief presentation for you on flock safety. My apologies to Trustee Goodman and Trustee Vaughn, who have seen this probably at least 3 or 4 times. This is the shortened version for everybody. Trustee Antonis, I know you have not had a chance to see this, I don't think so.
Does this have sound?
It does not, there's no sound. The sound will only be coming from me this evening. So before I get into flock safety, it's a license plate reading system, but it's a lot more than that. What license plate reading systems have done for law enforcement over the last 15 years or so generally have been mounted to a cruiser. What they do is they read a license plate and a license plate only and give you information off of that plate, whether it be warrant information or other things such as that. You know, they have a felony warrant, it's a stolen vehicle, so on and so forth. So flock safety is a new type of product, fairly new, it's been on the market for a while. But rather than just giving you plate information, what flock does is gives you all these other different items. So not only does it tell you it's a plate, through machine learning and artificial intelligence, it tells you things such as what's the make of the car, what's the color of the car, even what type of car it is, whether it has bumper stickers, whether the car has a roof rack. There are a number of identifiers. I won't go through them all, bumper stickers, windshield stickers, but many numbers of ways to be able to identify a specific vehicle for a specific reason. So in this case, you've got a plate that it identifies. It will tell us what state that plate is out of. It'll tell us the last time it visited that specific location where that camera is. And these are stationary mounted cameras, by the way. They are not affixed to cruisers or motion of any kind. So they're a fixed camera on a pole in a specific location. Move on here. So what's different about this setup or this type of license plate reader is it captures a lot more than license plates. Like I said, all the different things that it catches there, license plates, temporary plates, paper plates, but it also captures vehicles without plates. Now, why is that a bonus to us? Sometimes vehicles without plates will be cars that a suspect is driving and has taken the plate off the car because they don't want to be identified for a certain reason. Now, we may have a subject that comes into the township and decides, I'm going to steal some things out of a vehicle, so I'm going to take my plates off before I get into Genoa Township. So they take the plates off, they drive through the neighborhoods, hit a certain number of houses. We do our research around those neighborhoods. Generally, we'll find a Ring doorbell or some kind of footage of maybe a white Honda that may be out in the roadway, but no visible plate, no other item.
What do you do in the case where there's a new vehicle purchase and now you got these little pieces of paper you have to put in the back of the window that's real tinted? Would that cue these things as a violation of some sort?
It may not pick up that plate necessarily because of the tinted window. It would depend. It does pick up plates at nighttime when it's dark, so I can't answer that question specifically. And by the way, I do have Rick Lombardo on the phone over here, so if you have any sort of technical questions, he is here to answer those. He couldn't be here this evening, but he is available, and you can ask him that if you like, Lieutenant, in regards to paper plates on tinted windows, whether he knows if they're... Sure.
Because we have a lot of residents that end up with new cars, so.
I'm gonna ask you a question, I'm gonna put you up to the public microphone and see if you can hear it. So there was a question from the township administrator that the new paper plates, the temporary tags that are put on the inside of the windows, if that window is tinted dark enough, can your camera still read it, or at some point will it become non-readable?
It will become non-readable. A good way to think about it is if a person is standing on the side of the road and they have 20/20 vision and they can see the plate, our cameras will capture it. Nothing's magic about the cameras. They can, read through real dark tint or anything like that. So it won't pick up the plates that are, behind the window tint really dark. So if the human eye, somebody with 20/20 vision kind of wouldn't be able to see that if it's stopped in the road, our cameras would not be able to pick that up.
Okay.
Great, thank you. We'll let you know if we have any other questions.
So the camera system that they use is capable of capturing up to 2 lanes of traffic with vehicles that are traveling up to 100 miles an hour. They're simple systems. Basically, they connect to a pole. They're run by solar power. We don't run any electricity to them. They have cell phone connectivity, generally LTE, so they can be deployed anywhere. That also allows that specific camera to send a signal to all of our cruisers for reasons that I'll get into in just a moment. The cameras themselves cost $2,500 per camera per year. That's for hardware, software, however many users you have, as well as unlimited data storage for the plates that it actually takes, plates and vehicles that it takes pictures of. Flocks all over the country. This is some of their locations. To give you an idea locally, because I'm demoing the system with Flock currently at no cost, they are have given me access, or the police departments that are local here, I now have access to 226 cameras. So I am currently involved in doing some investigations for ourselves and the sheriff's office and assistance with them on cases to actually do searches on these 226 cameras for plates and different vehicles that they may be looking for because I have access to those. Some of those locations are Ohio State University Police Department, Upper Arlington Police Department, Minerva Park, Dayton. There's a couple of the local police departments I can't think of offhand, but over 500 in the U.S., 1,000 cities. Basically 120 stolen vehicle reads an hour, or what the cameras are averaging at this point. These are some of the numbers for different areas that they've had the cameras. A lot of times where you see Marietta, that's going to be Georgia. That's not Ohio. The product itself, I've reviewed several other products. Most products that are out there just take pictures of the plate. They don't have the capability of telling if it's a Ford or a Chevy or a truck or a two-door, so on and so forth. So this system also captures 30% more plates based on a study by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department based on their camera systems out there. 34% reduction in calls for service in Marietta from a study they did. So the calls for service went down substantially based on the camera systems. Cobb County had an installation of 13 cameras, and in a 6-month period, they reported a 60% reduction in overall crime by focusing on the beat they had there with the highest crimes. Company overview is basically to eliminate all property crime. That's not to say they don't eliminate other violent crimes and different things that occur, because obviously the cameras can be used for many different purposes. If a vehicle has no plates, for example, I'll go back just quickly to that point I was making. If we have a white Honda, let's say on one of those door cameras, and the Honda has some type of damage to it, or even if it doesn't, and we know that white Honda was involved in a crime between 2 and 5 in the morning, we can go back and view our cameras as well as all those other cameras through certain time frames and say, hey, you know, when does this white Honda hit one of these cameras? So if it's our cameras, for example, if we have a white Honda that's hit that camera between 2 and 5 in the morning, number one, there's not going to be very many cars that hit the cameras because there's really not much traffic in Genoa Township between 2 and 5 in the morning. So any white Honda that we get that's a hit on there is a possible suspect for that vehicle. Then we can start matching it up to things like, hey, there's a dent in the rear quarter panel perhaps, or it has a bumper sticker or a front windshield sticker, and we can start putting together probable cause to be able to investigate that vehicle. One thing I want to mention is the cameras are only for that purpose. They're only for investigative purposes or for catching someone that would have a felony warrant or some type of felony indicator through NCIC, which is the National Crime Center. This is just some of the different places that have done some different things. Again, some of the reductions in crimes that are occurring in certain places. 34% reduction in calls, like we talked about in Marietta. That's what the camera looks like. Goes on a metal pole, has solar power, and it's about 10 feet in the air. So it's high enough, we hope, that nobody's gonna damage it. This, again, we talked about already. This was the Sheriff's Department's detection accuracy text versus Legacy ALPR, which is another company I looked at. Again, another view of what the actual camera itself looks like there. So even if these cameras just take pictures of whatever passes it. So even if the vehicle doesn't have plates, it's going to take a picture of the vehicle when it comes by, and it's going to identify the vehicle by make, by color, and a lot of different other things. So to detect crime specifically in a proactive way, Flock is connected to NCIC and our personal hot list as well as other police departments' hot lists. So I'll speak first on the NCIC portion. That portion includes, NCIC is where all felony crimes are reported, also Amber Alerts, also violation of protection orders, or whether a party has a protection order. A good example would be if we had a domestic violence issue that occurred in the township, and that party was issued a protection order. They came back and they hit one of our cameras and they're going towards where the protected party may live. We get an automatic signal sent to our officer within 7 to 15 seconds. All cruisers get an alert that that car has a protection order. It's heading this direction. And our cruisers then know, hey, there's a possibility this subject could be going back to violate that protection order. So they're able to go at least to that area, check the area, and make sure everything is okay. Same thing with stolen vehicles. If we get a stolen vehicle hit, for example, let's say we have a camera at Route 3 in Polaris, I'll just use an example. A vehicle passes through there, it is a stolen vehicle. We would then send, the cruiser would then get an alert, we would send a cruiser that direction. They would, of course, verify, which we would always do before we may take any action, verify through our lead system that that is in fact a good stolen vehicle, and then they can take action. Again, that applies to other things, including Amber Alerts and those types of things. So that's the NCIC portion. The hot list portion is more along the lines of, let's say we had that white Honda that committed that crime. We can now enter white Honda with a bumper sticker that we're looking for. So anytime a white Honda with a bumper sticker hits that camera, we can take a look at it. Now, that's not to say that every white Honda, of course, with a bumper sticker is that person. But we can look at the times it's entering the township because it records the times. We can look at the amount of times it's entering the township. We can see if that's a resident of the township or whether it's somebody from somewhere else. A lot of times these folks that are doing these types of crimes will have other issues on their record or warrants or things of that nature. So it gives us a great investigative tool. We can enter anything into that hot list. So if we have a burglary, for example, and we have a partial plate, we can enter that into the hot list, and then anytime that partial plate hits, we can look at it and see if it's what we're looking for. It not only sends an alert to the officers in the cruiser, but it also sends them the information on that party so they can make a decision on what kind of follow-up they want to do to check on it. Oops, pardon me. We can search by different camera locations. We can also, our hot list can also be used throughout those other 222 cameras. So, for example, one of the cases I helped solve with the help of Upper Arlington's cameras was a catalytic converter thief that was hitting locations all over the Central Ohio area, cutting off catalytic converters and selling them. We were able to locate that car on an Upper Arlington camera that it was visiting a multiple amount of times, which appeared that either would be his way to go to work or where he continued to commit these crimes. And we were able to pass that on to the investigating agency who was able to follow up on that and use that as part of their criminal investigation to deal with that issue. So the hot list is very important, as well as the proactive portion of, here's a vehicle coming into your township that has bad people in it or has, a stolen vehicle or a number of different things like I mentioned. Some more info on what it can do. There's ways to get reports so we can show how this works. Again, we don't look at any plates without a reason to do so. We do have an audit trail that's set up in the system, so an officer can't just run in there and check any plate they want to check. They have to have a reason to do so, some type of criminal action or case number for whatever they're looking for before they can actually check the plate. You can search all the cameras at the same time, so if we're looking for a suspect that we know, for example, lives in Upper Arlington, let's say, where these cameras are, we're able to continue to look at Upper Arlington's cameras to see what kind of travel pattern we have if we have a good suspect on some type of crime. I'm not going to get into too much of the nitty-gritty here, but here's a couple of shots. Daytime footage, nighttime footage. There's a shot of a temporary plate. and no plate. So I can't enlarge these, but within the system, if we were going to look at one of these, we can obviously enlarge these pictures and see the plate a lot more clearly. You can also see if there's damage, dents to the vehicle, and those types of things. Covered plates, it'll take pictures of, even if you can't read them. Again, it'll take pictures of cars that go by with nothing at all. So even if you can't read that covered plate, if we know we have a maroon vehicle such as that that's involved in a crime, and let's say if we have some more indicators, like it has a broken tail light, or the right mirror's wrong, or the back door's painted white, it gives us a great investigatory tool to go back and look at those types of things. As it mentioned, it catches 2 lanes of traffic at a time as well. Cameras are waterproof, like I said, they're run by solar. Average of 10 to 15 seconds on your alert notifications to the officer. Those are the things it includes: the time, location, the plate, vehicle image. When you get into downloading the information, it'll also tell you how many times the vehicle's been in that specific location. So if you're looking for that white Honda, for example, but that car has been in the township 30 times in the last 30 days at 5 p.m. at night, you might recognize, hey, that's probably a resident coming home from work and not our suspect that we're looking for. Cloud storage, so it keeps it for 30 days. The data is automatically deleted after 30 days. Once that data is deleted, it doesn't come back. Generally speaking, that's not a problem for us, because within that 30-day time frame, we'll know the crimes occurred and we'll be able to download what information we need from that cloud to look into the crime. Any upgrades to the system, they handle for free. So if they have a better software program coming or new additions, they generally support us well. If the camera's damaged, the first time they take care of it for us. The second time, there's a small fee to replace it. But as far as the company goes, they do have good support. And I verified that through also speaking with agencies such as Upper Arlington and places that have the cameras in place. Where we decide to put the cameras, if they're approved, it can be a discussion, but we have some ideas of obvious locations that we see most criminal activity entering the township. Where does it come from? Where do we think we're going to see it? So depending on how many cameras you put up, I believe there's approximately 40 entrances or so to the township. If we were going to cover the entire township entry points with a camera on each one, we'd need about 40 cameras for that. That's not what we're going to propose. And again, this evening, I'm not proposing approval for these. This is just for discussion purposes, as well as for the public to view this, and for you folks as a board also to reach out to the public if you'd like to see what kind of support they have for an item such as this. I'm going to move away from this and just move to something else. This is just a quick story out of Chamblee, Georgia. There's many stories like this. I go to this one because it's a big deal. This is one where a stranger abduction occurred. They don't occur very often in the United States anymore, but when they do, they're normally either deadly or whoever is taken is never recovered. So this one, they had flock safety cameras in place, and the chief got a call, or the assistant chief got a call about a kidnapping, stranger on stranger abduction. They did their process, calling the FBI. We have several other options for us here in Ohio. We have a CART team, child abduction response team, that comes out, and several other things that help us. In this case, they were able to get a picture of this maroon vehicle, maroon SUV. It was an Acura MDX. And they got a neighborhood camera that picked up a picture of this that showed that rear wheel was kind of canted, like it had been hit. So they knew there was some kind of damage to the back of the car. It did also have a roof rack and like I said, a mismatched left rear wheel that was also kind of canted. The suspect in the vehicle had taken without getting into all the details here, the suspect had taken the license plates off of the car to commit this crime when he took the baby. But what they did is they went back and looked at all the Chamblee cameras and found that same vehicle with the roof rack, matching that mismatched wheel, where he had plates on the car, where he was just sort of looking in the area at the time. He took the plates off prior to committing the actual crime, but he was in the Chamblee area earlier with that vehicle and got caught by one of the cameras, and they were able to do that search, locate it quickly. And the results of that, it was in a matter of about 5 or 6 hours, they were able to basically locate that vehicle, locate that child, and return that baby to its mom within a 5 to 6 hour period, which is a really great story. Solving homicides, arrests from stolen vehicles. I can tell you anyone that's driving a stolen vehicle is generally committing other crimes as well. So it does relate to other crimes such as burglaries, thefts, any other things you can think of. Generally, when they're driving a stolen car, they're doing other bad things as well. So it's a great thing there. Homicides have been solved. Kidnappings have been solved from the system. There's also a Dayton report that talks about some of their reduction in crime. Dayton has some of the highest crime rates around. If I can get to that quickly. I said I promised to keep this short, but I'm probably going a bit long.
I didn't say that. For the record, that wasn't me.
Was that you, Pat? Oh, I may have lost my other item here, so. Joe, any help? Joe. I may have got it.
Find it? Oh, there it is.
Thank you, I got it.
I'm here for more support.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome to stand up here if you like. I want to try to get to some of the Dayton numbers without running through all this information with you, but Dayton's had them for a few years, and they did a pretty good study of the different areas and put most of their cameras in the areas where a lot of crime and violent crime was occurring. Try to get to this here. So 2018, 2019, and 2020 were the compared results for Dayton Police Department, and this is what they look like. So Twin Towers and Walnut Hills were some of their areas of crime, and you can see the different crimes that occur here. So P1V means Part 1 violent crime. P1P means Part 1 property crime. Part 2 violent crime, Part 2 property crime. So this just shows you what those crimes were and the reductions in those crimes as they occurred. Other could be any other kind of, oh dear, sorry. Other can be any other kind of property crime that doesn't relate to Part 1 or Part 2s. And we can talk about Part 1 or Part 2 if you like, but this is your percentage decrease on those crimes from when those cameras were put in place throughout those time frames. Again, over here with Walnut Hills, here's your reduction in crime there in Dayton. So your totals are down there at the bottom, which shows a pretty good decrease in crime. If it's something we move forward with, we would definitely plan to watch that data to make sure we were having those kind of reductions. And I would definitely expect that we would have a reduction in the majority of our property crimes that occur here. So, and I won't go through all of this with you guys, but if you have any questions for me about the system itself, I'm happy to answer them. Any questions about our criminal activity, I'd be happy to answer that. Any specific questions to the system, I think we still have Rick on the phone, so we can certainly ask him any technical questions or those types of things. So happy to field anything you have.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I just, for the record, I attended it's a long name, so I apologize, the Genoa Township Citizen Police Academy Association.
Oh, so I got you too.
Yeah, so
All right,
I
so-
did get a good briefing,
So
right?
all three of you have seen it. All right. I apologize to two. I'll add three.
No, it's
All right,
good
so-
stuff.
Thank you.
Good.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
You mentioned about the damaged cameras, so that one was one you've taken care of. What is the contract length with this? If we were to get this and then find out that it wasn't really what we were expecting?
2 years is their minimum contract time. So you have your First year, again, the cameras are $2,500 per year per camera. However, the first year, they do have an installation fee with each camera, so you're talking about $2,750 per camera year one. And we'd have a second-year contract of $2,500 per camera for that year, and then we would have an option to opt out if we chose to after that.
Okay.
The other nice part about this system is within their contract, if you do opt out after 2 years, and I will tell you from the company rep and what they've told me that they have all those cameras throughout the United States. There's not one agency in the United States that has ended their contract with the company. So just to give you an idea of how it's working for them. So yeah, it is a 2-year contract. After that 2 years is out, we can decide to opt out. But again, in their contract, they allow us 3 years of viewing of all the other cameras that are out there to continue. So even if we decided to remove our cameras after 2 years, we can still use it as an investigative tool for the other 230 cameras that are currently in the state of Ohio.
Okay. One other question. How discriminating is the camera? Say a vehicle is coming so that the camera is looking at the front of the vehicle, reading the plate. Could it also give a fine definition to recognize the driver and perhaps a passenger in the front seat?
No, it cannot.
Okay.
And there's two reasons for that. The first reason is we would not face them to the front of the car because of the new law that went in effect in June, where you don't require front license plates in Ohio anymore. So it's kind of purposeless to face the front of the car because half of the time or more, you're not going to catch a plate at all. So it would always generally be facing at least we would want it to face the rear portion of the vehicle. But even if it was facing the front, it's not intended to identify anyone in the vehicle. It will identify the car itself, but it does not identify a person inside.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And if I remember correctly, you had said no facial recognition.
No, there is no,
They can't.
Yeah, no.
no, nothing
That's
of,
different.
nothing of that nature. It doesn't recognize anything at all with the person in the vehicle.
So I'm trying to figure out the logistics of this. If there is, for example, on Maxtown Road, you got multiple lanes, is it taking pictures of every vehicle, and how does it keep up with it? Do you know?
So what it's going to do, and I'll let Rick speak a little bit to that if he likes, but what it is capable of is 2 lanes of travel. So if we think about Maxtown Road, and let's say you had it, if you're familiar with where Red Bank Harbor is, let's say we were somewhat south of that. You've got 2 lanes. You've got 2 lanes in that location, or at least coming into that location. You've got a turn lane. It's going to pick up whatever angle you place that camera at. So Rick is going to come out, or someone from the company is going to say, here's where you want to place this to catch these 2 lanes. So what we're going to look for is, depending on where we place them, of course. Let's say we're only looking for northbound traffic out of Maxtown. We're not interested on someone that maybe goes down Maxtown. So we face it to the 2 lanes that are going to head in a
Right,
northerly.
into the township.
And then it would catch those 2 lanes. And as far as how fast it catches those, maybe Rick can answer that. And he might have heard all that, so you don't have to repeat it, Lieutenant.
Are you there, Rick? Yes, I am. Did you catch the last question about how fast your cameras can read plates?
I didn't, but we can capture up to 100 miles an hour.
Is that the question?
My
I'm getting
secret's
some
out.
clarification if that was, if that's what they're asking.
That's sort of the question, Rick, but it also is directed towards, let's say we have 2 lanes of travel we're trying to capture, and it's rush hour. Is it going to capture every car, or what kind of, let's talk about like a shutter feature. How fast is it going to catch each car as it comes through? Will it catch the majority of those?
Did you catch that question, Rick?
I didn't. It came in. I couldn't.
Oh, basically, so during rush hour traffic, when the cars are packed in close together and we're getting a lot of action on the camera, how often can it get the cars? What's your capture rate? Are you getting every car? How often do you think you're getting them?
Yeah, it's over 99% accuracy on the license plate. Since it's motion-based, we're really taking images of anything that passes that camera motion-wise. So you'll get a lot of pictures. You won't just get one picture of the car. You actually get multiple pictures of each vehicle.
Do you know what, you may have to just ask.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, sure. Do you know how fast that capture rate is? I know it captures motion. Rick, but how fast it actually does. So is it every half second it's taking a picture, or do you know?
Yeah, I don't know the exact time, but on average, like of a car passing at say 35 miles an hour, it'll capture about 5 images of that from the moment the front end kind of passes the camera. Then it takes kind of another picture. Then the car is kind of in the middle, and then it's kind of, you know, leaving out of view. So it'll take about 5, somewhere between 4 and 7 images per vehicle.
Okay, I think that covers it.
Anybody else? Questions?
Are there any concerns, or has anybody expressed any concerns about privacy, whether this is a violation of people's privacy?
Not to me personally.
I mean, in any of their literature, or
Rick can probably speak again to that, so we'll ask him. We're speaking a little bit about privacy issues. Rick, as far as you've had any issues with the company, with anybody having any issues with their privacy being interrupted in some format. As Ohio law stands, there is no privacy. There is no expectation of privacy out on public roadway or even out in public at all. So there's no expectation there. Now, does somebody feel like they should have some privacy? That's another question. Have you faced any problems with folks coming to you saying, hey, you are in our privacy, or giving us issues with that, or you had issues with the company with that, Rick?
No, not internally. I will say, I mean, 100% of people are not always going to like, you know, security cameras on roadways, right? But the steps that we take is we limit the data to 30 days. Only law enforcement has access to it, et cetera. In Ohio right now, there's absolutely no laws around LPR. I could actually put one of these in my front lawn, capture every vehicle that passes, keep that data forever, and sell it to anybody that I want. That's actually, you know, Ohio just has absolutely no laws around it at all. So we really put our own restraints around it to make sure that's not the case when you're working with us, that it's really a limited time frame and limiting it only to law enforcement.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Does that answer the
yeah.
question? Okay. Oops.
Do you have anything else?
So I like the spreadsheet from the Dayton areas, so you can justify and maybe investing in more, right? Because your system's clearly preventing crimes. But you're probably going to need more than 2 years to really evaluate unless you see a drastic drop in 1 year.
Yeah, and it also depends on what your crime levels are. So there's different ways to look at that. So as I see it, we would look at it as a function for that 2-year period of time to see how the rates would drop. So what happens with us, there's another way to look at it. You can focus on it specifically on a certain amount of crime. So I'll give you an example. We've had 2 or 3 day periods where we've had 20 cars hit in one evening for a 3-day period. So you have 60 crimes that occurred in 3 days, right? So if we can solve, we know right now that we're gonna probably solve 10 of those maybe, if we're lucky, okay? Just to give you an example. If I put the flock safety cameras up next week and we get a hit of 60 of those and I solve 45, I know I've already got it, and that's only a week, right? So it gives me, I can get data before I even get to the 2-year period that tells me it's working when we have crimes of that nature. As far as an expansive look at it, of course, the 2-year time frame is going to give you some numbers. How big those numbers are and what kind of data I'll have to report back, I don't know what the exact numbers are going to be, but I will tell you, from what I can see, from everything here and with my experience, it's going to reduce property crime by quite a bit. And as I've discussed before, it's not necessarily that Genoa has a lot of crime, but a lot of times people are personally impacted by that crime. And when you can go back to them and say, hey, I solved this, I caught this, the people that were in your garage, which personally affects those people for a period of time, and you go back and say, here's your stuff, we caught them, they're in jail. That's a great peace of mind for our residents, the people that live here. So, but the data, you can grab it at one point sometimes when you have those types of sprees that occur, but I think after 2 years, I think we'll have a pretty good look at what it's actually doing for us.
One more, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Keep you guys
Go ahead.
all night. That's fascinating. Can you, and that's you, the police force, relocate these as you wish, or do they have to come in and physically move it? Like if you decide you want to try another location with a camera at one location, move it to another? Is that something you have the capability of doing, or you have to rely on Flock to do that?
We would have to have Flock do it
Would.
if we chose to do that, now, and they will do that. I'm not sure if there's a relocation fee. We can probably get Rick back on the
That's all
line
right.
for that. But yes, if we chose to do that, that's something we could do. I have an idea in mind and an amount of cameras in mind that I'd like to present, and I have good ideas of where those locations are going to be the best for those cameras, based on the data we know already. So I don't know that we would move them because of those locations being probably the best ones to look for these types of things happening. But if we saw, let's say nothing was happening in a year, then maybe you might move them to other locations just to look and see what's going on. Or maybe you had a pattern of crime in an area where you wanted to look at it for a month just to see what was happening. You can do that through them, but yeah, they technically would have to move the cameras because it's almost like a lease, right? It really is their equipment. We're kind of renting it, so to speak, so.
Okay.
You good?
I do have one.
Yeah,
more
go ahead.
that spurred that
ahead.
thought. Do you have a time frame when you would really like to have the first ones of these installed? And I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I always think there's more crime in the summer because nobody wants to go out in the snow and cold and rob houses and garages.
I'd love to tell you that's true, although we had a burglary that occurred, how long ago, Lieutenant? I don't recall, but it was over $100,000 of items stolen. So it does occur, anytime, of course. If I had my way, when would I install them? January of last year, maybe, but.
Okay, let's look at the future.
Of course. I'd love to get them installed before summertime. I think that's when the big crimes start to occur. Criminals oftentimes, when they're doing thefts and vehicle thefts and those types of things, property crimes always increase throughout when the weather's warmer. They don't like being out in negative 10 degrees like anybody, so generally when it's warmer, they come out. The reason for the discussion piece today is to let you guys sort of take it in as a board, talk to the folks that put you on the board and say, what do we think about this product? And then at some point, maybe in March, to come back, or even April, and say, what do you guys think about approval for purchase of this many cameras for these to be out here and help us do what we do for the community. So.
And that's kind of what I was projecting out, is if you came back in, say, March, and I recall one of the slides said 2 months to get them installed and everything, we'd be talking May.
Right.
Entry into the warmer months.
That's correct. And in talking with Rick, they're going to try to get us on the list as soon as they can if we decide to sign a contract and place an order with them. So he might be able to speed that up for us, but the sooner the better as far as I see it, so we can start gathering that data as soon as possible. And not only that, obviously solve some crimes and be able to get some bad folks off the street, so.
If I might suggest that maybe we return to this discussion at our March meeting with details and, proposals of dollars, cents, where it's coming from, et cetera.
Absolutely.
If my fellow trustees are
Yeah,
in
I
line with
would,
that.
I'd like to make a couple comments. I first became aware of this system in the summer when I did a ride-along, and then I was also at a business association meeting this fall, and, just comes up in conversation, and I got some pushback from residents. So when this was on the agenda, I sent out quite an email blast, and I have to say the reaction from residents was mixed. And there were a lot of people who just said, absolutely, whatever they need to do. If I'm not a criminal, what do I have to hide? Here you go. There were quite a few residents who were worried about their privacy and where these cameras would go, and how long it's going to be stored. We know it's 30 days, but we all know everything on the web is never truly erased. So the other thing is, they had concerns of if Flock Safety gets sold, just like Ring just got sold by Amazon. Now Amazon owns all of that data. What are they doing with it? So I haven't tallied it up. I still have people replying to me, but there definitely is a large number of residents who responded to me that do have concerns and would not be in support of this. So, but I will have my tallies by March.
For a quick answer for you that I found out this morning.
Yep.
And we had a discussion prior, but
Yep.
Flock doesn't actually own it. So we do own the information
Okay.
as a PD. The reason for that is so they can't sell it. So some of the folks that, talking about the privacy things and all those types of things, might not even know that there's probably thousands of Rumpke trucks that run LPRs all day long, taking pictures and selling their data. It occurs all over the nation. Google pays for this and on all these different things. And, our purposes are obviously not to sell any data. And the reason, as Rick told me this morning, that we own the data is so their company can't do something like that. So they're not allowed to do something like that because we would have to give some type of permission, which we would never do because it's only used for criminal purposes on our end of that. So I wanted just to clarify
Okay,
that
thank
with
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
I do want to put on my Donna Batten hat. So if we do own the equipment and the data, then this would probably need to be included in a records retention schedule then.
Well, so here's how it works. So we own the data, but the data isn't used for any purpose at any point unless we have a crime. So once we have a criminal issue and we download the data, then the records retention schedule would apply. It doesn't apply to data of things that are just being snapped as they pass by because it's not something we're using for any purpose for our records. Although it is our data, it's not anything that we would have that was used for that purpose.
But we can make a simple adjustment to retention that states any downloaded data is saved for 30 days and destroyed. That would be the retention schedule. So if we have to do that, we can. Because if it is downloaded and put somewhere to rest, then we're retaining that record.
And that's even okay, Pat, because if we download that information, it does become public record at that point, and it can hold to the same retention schedule we have. That's okay. It's not a problem.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Paul makes a good point. This particular, they're going to delete after 30 days.
The flock information will go.
That's
What's in the storage in the cloud will be gone after 30 days,
Anything
correct?
we bring in from the cloud here is already covered by your current retention schedule.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
But there may need to be a subline that talks about the 30 that we don't download, that deletes after 30 days. Okay, we can handle that.
Okay.
So would you use this information to assist the prosecutor? I mean, is that what, or you're just using it to identify if somebody calls in that they were robbed in a, red Subaru, then you could search Subaru and then all the Subarus pop up and you could check plates in?
So three purposes. Proactive portion through NCIC. So if the vehicle itself or the plate is attached to a party that has a warrant for their arrest, is attached to a party for a stolen vehicle, is attached because of an Amber Alert. Let's say a missing child or a child's been abducted, there's an Amber Alert on that car, it would alert us. So all the reasons that would fall under the NCIC, felony warrants, protection orders, Amber Alerts, that's the proactive side of it. The investigative side would be, we get a phone call, someone stole some things out of my car last night, don't know who it was, red car, that type of thing. Then we do an investigative side search where we look for that type of vehicle. So those are your two reasons that we would actually have to look at that data. There was a third and completely lost it, so I'll have to think about that and come back to you on it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I got
Yep.
just a couple more agenda items for police. Kyle Simkoviak, so I'm going to respectfully request board's approval for a tuition reimbursement request from Officer Kyle Simkoviak. Kyle plans on attending Columbus State Community College to complete his associate's degree. Our current collective bargaining agreement states the Board of Trustees must approve coursework to be eligible for reimbursement. It is a criminal justice course which would be applicable to our field, and the documentation for his course of study is in your packet. So with that, I request the approval for tuition reimbursement for Kyle.
Thank you. I'll move to approve the tuition reimbursement for Officer Kyle Simkowiak for an associate degree in criminal justice from Columbus State Community College per Article 15 tuition reimbursement in the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association Union Agreement. Reimbursement will be based upon final grades. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Antoinette? Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, motion carries.
One other
Next.
item here. I would also respectfully request approval of an educational supplement for Officer Marissa Guyton. Marissa achieved her bachelor's degree in criminology, criminal justice through the College of Defiance, which is an accredited university in Northwest Ohio. I would request she receives the educational supplement of an additional $1 an hour to her hourly wage per the current collective bargaining unit.
Very good. I'll move to approve the educational supplement for full-time police officers Marissa Guyton per Article 14.11 in the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association Union Agreement in the amount of $1 an hour for a bachelor's degree effective February 3rd, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Motion carries.
One other item from police, and Lieutenant McMillan is going to present that for you.
Very good.
Good evening, Board. So I actually had this really neat presentation. It was going to have some special effects and all kinds of stuff, but I think the chief took his and my time, so I'll keep mine short and just answer questions if you need it. So I would respectfully request the approval to purchase 2 new marked police vehicles. The total for both vehicles is $128,210.68, which includes the cost to equip and mark the vehicles for our use. I would ask that we get a blanket for $130,000 to budget, just to cover any surprise costs, or if the costs do go up again. They're going up monthly. Every time we get a quote, it's higher. And this was budgeted from 2022, and I would request that blanket come from our capital outlay. And I can answer any questions that you have.
Move to approve the blanket certificate in the amount of $130,000 for equipment and purchase of 2 new cruisers for the police department. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion.
Just a quick question. Is this replacing 2 vehicles or adding 2 vehicles?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace one vehicle, which is our Cruiser 67, and initially we were gonna replace one of our unmarked vehicles, but that vehicle's in great shape. It's not costing us anything to maintain, so we were hoping to add one to our fleet. But this weekend, one of our cars got rear-ended. We're working with our insurance company. I believe our fleet manager thinks there might be the frame might be bent. So we're trying to figure out, is that gonna get replaced? Do we get to keep it? So we were hoping to net one, but we still may end up losing both.
Okay, that's all.
Also, for the public, you said both vehicles cost $26,000, but then you're asking for a blanket purchase order of $130,000. So where is the extra money going?
So we have it priced out, if you go through the sheets, at $128, but every time we get a quote, so December the price was this, January is a couple $1,000s more for installation and labor, so I believe we had $150 budgeted. We were just asking for that $130 to cover in case we do get a quote of a couple thousand more, a few hundred here between labor and material.
So that's why we're doing this as a blanket, so that it covers that purchase up to the 130, because, and that's a little bit of a Donnaism. Let's round out, the money's there, it's less than what was budgeted, and at the last minute, when that little bit of lettering costs another $700 or $800, we don't come back to you and say we need another $700 or $800. If it's 128 and change, the rest of the money stays in the fund.
Okay.
There's also a vehicle shortage everywhere. And I know that you will be impacted by this. What are the chances that we'll actually get vehicles that we're trying to purchase?
If you guys give us a go-ahead tonight and we make the phone call tomorrow, I think pretty good. We were told that we would be told when Ford says no more. So they're the only ones left. That's why we're coming to you guys so early and asking for it. It's the chip issue. There's only a certain amount of chips. These are state bid. Ford doesn't make as much on the state bid. They'd rather put them in other cars. They're only giving a certain amount. So right now, we have not been told that they're cutting it off. If we get to go ahead and we can make that phone call tomorrow, I think they're pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
So you already know what vehicle you want. It could be it's not an SUV?
It is an SUV.
Oh,
It'll be basically a mimic of what we do have. It's that Ford Explorer police package. They're all-wheel drive. You won't notice a difference between the ones we already have to what we have, so we do have them picked out.
Anyone else? Okay.
Mr. Antonez? Yes. Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Motion carries.
Next time, I'm requesting to go first.
Thank you. Next, buildings and ground
Good evening.
maintenance.
Item is 2021 Park Fund presentation, and Corey's going to do that.
You should be able to just use those two buttons right there and go for it. Okay. Don't take as long as maybe get in trouble.
Nobody's yelling at anybody tonight. Go ahead, Corey, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Board. This is the first annual Parks Advisory Committee Progress Report. Goal 1 is to ensure master plan is carried out. To secure a dedicated funding source for the parks, a three-year levy was passed in November of 2020. Number 2, the Parks Advisory Committee report is being presented right now. Number 4, to apply for grants to support the activity of the Parks Master Plan. The state of Ohio, Sorry about that. Okay. State of Ohio, Senate Bill 310, gave $115,000 for improvements to Freeman Park. ODNR grant, Step Outside, $500 for fishing day, allowed the township to buy fishing poles. Clean Ohio Trails application has been submitted for the trail along Worthington Road from Sheffield Park to Walnut Grove. Goal number 2, to address residents' request for capital improvements. Establish and implement a playground replacement schedule as age and wear dictate. Replace most outdated playgrounds with new equipment and include shade structures. A draft has been started and is in need of further review. To install pickleball courts at Center Green, this has been completed. Explore possibilities of doing so in partnership with adjacent condos or HOAs. The pickleball courts were completed in September of 2021. In addition, 25 trees were planted along Center Green Drive. During this project, the parking lot and basketball court at Center Green were resurfaced. A bench placement plan was established and benches will be installed as they are purchased through the Parks Giving Program. Number 5, to install obstacle course playground at Freeman Park. We broke ground in January, but because of the recent snows, that has been put on hold. And we will resume it as soon as the ground is solid enough. Number 7, to preserve and restore historic township buildings, Mcnamara Barn and the old Township Hall. Bob has been working on getting quotes to move the old Township Hall, including HVAC and electrical quotes. An evaluation has been done on the current barn structure in Mcnamara for repair or replacement recommendations. A grant was secured through the state of Ohio for relocation and restoration of the old Township Hall, which will be relocated to Mcnamara Park. Number 10, coordinate access to Floor Woods and install hiking trail. The initial evaluation and planning has started for the proposed hiking trail through Floor Woods. This is also contingent upon obtaining easements. Goal number 3, to improve park aesthetics, comfort, and ease of use. Select trees for biological diversity, pest resistance, and brilliant fall color to attract leaf peepers. Thoughtfully planted trees in areas to shield sight lights, buffer noise, and provide shade to park users. Install plant identification markers for native species. A list of preferred trees is posted on the Township website. The Township has added public Wi-Fi in partnership with the public libraries serving Genoa Township. The Wi-Fi has been installed at Freeman Park. Remove outdated pavement surfaces at Freeman and Hillmar Park. The old basketball court was removed in the back of Freeman Park, and the playgrounds will have new rubber surface installed in 2022. Relocate, edge, and landscape kids' sand area at Freeman Park. The improvements to the sand area are included in the Freeman Park renovation. Goal number 4, to continually improve trail access. To increase trail connections from neighborhoods and parks to existing networks. This is an ongoing effort, and trail connections are contingent upon obtaining necessary easements. Build gateway parks where cyclists passing through the Ohio to Erie Trail, as well as motorists on State Route 3. If anyone has driven past that recently, the concrete pad is finished and the basic structure for the walls are installed. The rest of it should be completed in the summer of 2022. To remain engaged in stakeholder groups such as Morpsey Central Ohio Greenways, Ohio to Erie Trails, Rails to Trails Conservancy, the Delaware County General Health Ad Hoc Group. Paul and Leslie maintain engagement with these groups on an ongoing basis. Separate the trail and parking lots using bollards, fencing, or other suitable material at Center Green Park, Township Hall, and behind the fire station. We're hoping to prevent drivers from driving on the paths when they're exiting the parking areas. Goal 5, serve as responsible stewards of the environment. Mitigate wildlife nuisance, especially the overpopulation of Canadian geese. This process has been started through Go Geese Go, and geese tend to return to the area that they were born, so we're hoping if we break the cycle, we can reduce the amount of geese traffic in our parks. A study of feasibility of stream restoration at Center Green Park. An initial evaluation of this project was conducted with the help of Delaware County Soil and Water, Delaware County engineers, and Genoa Township representatives from administration, zoning, and maintenance. This restoration project has also been submitted to the Ohio State University for consideration as a studio project for students in civil engineering, hydrology, landscape architecture, and environmental studies. If selected, students use this project to create and submit a plan. There is no obligation to use this proposed plan. Control invasive species and incorporate native species into landscaping. In addition to the 25 trees that were planted along Center Green Drive, approximately 300 saplings were planted by the Parks Advisory Committee in the no-mow areas of the community gardens. Promote plantings that attract butterflies and birds, expanding our popular wildfire plantings. Curveballs, barn roof damage, Mcnamara shelter house roof damage, prairie wildflowers, they did not grow very well these past couple years, an increased cost of the new playground equipment at Freeman Park, and a porta potty fire at Hillmar Park. Priorities for 2022, Worthington Road Community Gardens permanent restroom, Hillmar Park permanent restroom, Administrative Building Park new playground, Hillmar Park playground equipment. The priorities were established by the Board of Trustees in August of 2020. We would like to ask the trustees to reestablish these priorities in the coming months as we continue to plan for the remaining years of the Parks Levy and upcoming renewal. I'll answer any questions that you have the best that I can. Bob and Molly are a little bit more knowledgeable than I am.
All right, anybody have any questions? I have a question. In this year's park levy funds, did you budget the items up there for this year's?
No, there's
No.
not enough,
No,
there's not enough money in the budget
for this.
from the levy to do all that.
Okay. What was budgeted? Some of this, but not all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We budgeted all the rest of the overrun at Freeman Road. We budgeted all the rest of the Freeman Road playground equipment that we didn't have the fund for this year. And out of the levy funds, half of it is just salaries and costs we can't deal with. So they're only working with half the levy money for projects.
Okay. Anyone else?
Corey, you mentioned about the upcoming levy, which the Parks Committee and trustees, et cetera, will need to begin to get ready for that. Do you have any idea when you're going to start putting together the priorities for a next levy? Or maybe Bob or Molly or trustee liaison?
I believe that we'll be continually working on it during our Parks Advisory Committee meetings. It's an ongoing project. Hopefully, we'll have something put together soon.
I think it's really important to keep that in mind. This is good to see what the levy has helped us do, something we couldn't do before because all that money was coming out of the general fund. And by having the levy now, we've been able to relieve the general fund of that stress. And Mr. Wise just sent us some information this past week or so about the general fund is now in a steady state, which hasn't happened for a long time. So I encourage the Parks Committee to keep up the good work and also to prepare for the future, because we need this levy to continue to help us to maintain and enhance.
Do you have a parks budget, like separate for the parks levy? Do you have it separated out so that we
Yes,
can?
we
yeah.
do.
Can we get that where you, was it in the big one, separate?
It's in the big one.
All
It's
right.
2171.
Then I saw it and I forgot I saw it because I looked at it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I like how police and fire, when they do a levy, they show what you start with, what you're going to carry over. You know, have you done that with parks? Every year, what you take in, what you've spent, what you're going to carry over, so that we can see how much we're spending and then maybe gauge the next levy that way?
We haven't yet, but that's something we will do.
Okay,
I do not know myself from what we took in this year from the shelter house rentals. I imagine it was not much because of COVID,
yeah,
but this year it should be different.
okay,
Give us a better handle on what we're taking in. We got what the levy's bringing in, but that's all we really had to work with this year,
right,
past year.
yeah.
I think it also takes a little time to build up a carryover.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know.
this is the first year we carry over, if we carried anything over.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Anything else?
No, nothing.
Thank you, Corey. And then, Bob, you have some purchase orders,
Yeah,
correct?
the next one is some then and now purchase orders need approval on.
Okay, I'll move to approve the following then and now purchase orders. McCoy Paving, $37,800 for snow removal. Game Time, $45,585 for Freeman Park Playground. And American Rock Salt, $24,701.26 for road salt. So I have a second.
Second?
Discussion.
Mr. Antoness?
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Bob, on the Game Time, I know at the last Parks meeting I was at, we talked about the increase due to shipping and all that. Is this that revised figure with all of that now?
That is for the small playground area. I went ahead and purchased that stuff. They got me the bill in January sometime. It's all sitting in the garage waiting for weather to be installed and stuff.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with the big overhead that I'm going to present probably next month
Okay.
of the 210,000 for the big area that we're doing.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I'm done.
Mr. Antoness? Yes. Ms. Goodman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes,
And the last thing
Carries.
is Go Geese Go. I know the trustees voted on it to just do Hillmar Park last November, but I'm bringing it up again to see if there's anything else you want to do or don't want to do with Go Geese Go.
I don't, if I recall correctly, we didn't vote, we just had a discussion on Go Geese Go, is that correct?
Renee is correct. That didn't show a vote in the record minutes, so I think the amount for the year is under 10,000.
It is.
So if the board wants to give us the go-ahead thumbs up, we'll move ahead with the Hillmar Park proposal only.
Hillmar Park is $175 a week, and they're doing it for 38 weeks.
And our discussion last fall was, it didn't work at Center Green, but it was worth a try again this year at Hillmar, because we saw
Correct.
some improvement.
Correct. We've seen some results at Hillmar, but did not at Center Green at all.
And if I recall, the issue at Center Green was because there's an HOA pond or double HOA pond across the street. So the geese leave when the dog's there and come back when the dog's not.
Yeah.
So unless there's a concerted effort, it's not going to work.
Yes. Yeah, so I think we should do it again at Hillmar. I'm in favor.
And the time frame is they would like to start
Yes.
about the middle of February.
Yep.
Before they get established.
Yep. Okay, I'm good with it.
I'm willing to give a second year at Hillmar and see.
Okay,
All right, write the PO, Bob.
all right, thank you, Bob. Next, we have fire. Thank you for waiting patiently. That darn police department took everybody's time.
Somehow, I always seem to end up at the end of the agenda. I
Hey,
guess
we always
'cause
save the best for last.
Well, I guess it's my penance to pay because being the new guy, I guess I get to go last. So I only have one item in front of you this evening, trustees. That would be respectfully to request an educational supplement for Pete Isabel, one of our full-time firefighter paramedics. Previously, Pete had formally requested and received approval to pursue a course of studies to receive his Bachelor of Science degree in Fire Administration from Bowling Green State University. He has completed that course of studies and successfully received his Bachelor of Science degree. You should have a copy of his diploma. Also, for the record, I have turned in his sealed transcript to Linda, and upon hopefully your approval this evening, I will forward the rest of the paperwork and then notify Linda of the approval so the appropriate pay rates can change. This is a contractual item under section 15.8 of the collective bargaining agreement between the township and the firefighters union local 4307. So I would respectfully request approval of that educational supplement.
Okay, I will move to approve the educational supplement for full-time firefighter paramedic Peter Isbell per Article 15.8 of the Genoa Township Professional Firefighter Local 4307 Union Agreement in the amount of $1 an hour for a bachelor's degree effective February 3rd, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
All right, announcements, February 14th, there's a zoning commission meeting at the Township Hall. February 21st, it's President's Day, the offices will be closed. March 2nd, there's a Park Advisory Committee meeting, and the next regular trustee meeting will be March 3rd, 2022. And having no more business before the board, I'll move to adjourn the meeting at 8:28. Do I have a second? Roll call.
Mr. Antoinette?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman? Yes. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.